back to World Crisis Radio. So take a look, if you can read Italian, take a look at the Italian page of Tarpley.net, and there's plenty of other stuff up there. We'll be making some book recommendations in just a minute. It's the season when you need to catch up on your reading here. So we've got the anti-derivatives bloc. We've got the plan now, France, Germany, Italy, Austria, and Spain to impose the long-awaited Tobin tax, the transfer tax, financial turnover tax, Robin Hood tax, the European equivalent of the Wall Street sales tax. We've also got the U.S. Department of Justice, even under the craven leadership of Obama appointee Eric Holder, probing Standard & Poor's for their failure, their nonfeasance malfeasance in the crash of 2008, August-September 2008, when they failed in their job. And we're told now, oh, you can't blame them because it was a systemic breakdown in which they shared. Well, let them share. And if the Department of Justice does anything, I can see civil suits, civil RICO suits, tearing these people apart. Tear them for their ratings, tear them for their subversion, tear them for their corruption. The city of Los Angeles has dumped Standard & Poor's. Now, remember, these people are brought in. They are given money to rate the bonds of people who want to issue bonds. The city of Los Angeles, wisely, a wise decision to dump Standard & Poor's, that they're just no longer reliable. They're way out in front. They're extremists. They're political. They're nuts. Fitch and Moody's have both said, no, the U.S. remains AAA or the equivalent. We've also got, again, Michele Ruggiero, the courageous Italian investigator, state prosecutor of Trani, down in the heel of the Italian boot, who raided the Milan offices of Standard & Poor's and Moody's in the Milan Stock Exchange area, Piazza Affari. And involves criminal indictments apparently coming against 4 employees of these 2 corrupt agencies. So what you could get here very easily is a worldwide backlash against the arrogance of these financial predators. This is exactly what we need. I have an insider report. A trader at a very large New York City investment bank related to me that Standard & Poor's used the following method. If you wanted to market a collateralized debt obligation or a collateralized loan obligation or some money market vehicle, Standard & Poor's would tell you which stocks or other assets you had to include in the CDO or the money market. A lot of these were structured investment vehicles. A lot of these were SIVs. So if you wanted to market a SIV, they would tell you which stocks or other assets, bonds, mortgage-backed securities, you should put in. Look at the vast area of corruption here. These people are basically acting as stock touts, but under the cover of the objectivity and the wonderful, awful majesty of what they do. So these agencies are corrupt. They are suspect of kickbacks and God knows what else. They are deregulated. They are unaccountable. They are for-profit. They're a branch of the right-wing reactionaries at McGraw-Hill, and this has got to come to an end. Now, it's timely now. We've got 2 things going. The anti-derivatives block around the Tobin tax, and then this tendency that we can see now in Italy and the United States. There is also, by the way, still this report that when Congress comes back, the Senate, one of the 2 Senate committees will hold hearings about the activities of Standard & Poor's. So it is time to mobilize on that front, too, to shut them down. Otherwise, they will attempt to bankrupt and destroy the national state. This is purely political, not a question of technical analysis. You've got to tax speculation in general, ban credit default swaps because that's the preferred vehicle to increase the destructive power of speculative money, and you've got to delve into the actions of Standard & Poor's and Moody's and, of course, Fitch, too. Don't forget them. Now, we've just had another sickening downward lurch in these markets. That was Thursday, the 18th of August. Morgan Stanley cut their outlook on the world economy. They've been followed now by J.P. Morgan, Citibank. A lot of these entities themselves, you look look at who's calling what. The Deutsche Bank says many European banks are at risk. I'm sure they know better than anybody how much they're at risk. Yesterday, the New York was down 3.8%. Germany was down almost 6%. Italy more than 6% down. France down 6%. Spain down almost 5%. Switzerland down 4%. This is now the European banking crisis, which I have predicted, which grows simply out of the analogy to the last depression. This is now what happened in the summer of 1931, and it's happening now. It's taken more like 2 years than one. When we look at these European banks, we'll see that they're leading it all down. Société Générale was down 12% on Thursday. Crédit Agricole and BNP were down about 7% on Thursday. The Intesa San Paolo in Italy down 8.5%. Commerzbank, always the weakest of the German banks, we've been pointing that out, minus 10% yesterday, Thursday. Deutsche Bank down 7%. Unicredito of Italy down 7%. And remember, whatever your mutual fund guy may be telling you, that hits you, because as those banks approach bankruptcy, they're going to dump assets in New York, and that means the stock market is headed down, down, down. So this is the reality of that. Basically, the build-up for this, it goes back to July 11th. The credit default swaps began attacking Italy, and then on August 1st and 2nd, thanks to the agitation of the Tea Party fanatics and their lunatic Austrian school crackpot economics, we got the stage set which allowed Standard & Poor's to have cover, rhetorical political cover, to do what they wanted to do, is essentially to attack the United States and force the United States to pay several percentage points more on the U.S. public debt, lining the pockets of speculators, zombie bankers all over the world. That's what S&P essentially means. We are told now that in terms of these banks going down, we have some pretty dramatic statistics on the fall of these banks. I think during the last 2 months, Bank of America has gone down between 25 and 30% on their stock price, and Citibank down approximately 25% on the stock price. Bank of America has announced firing 3,500 employees. 10,000 more Bank of America employees may soon follow. So you get the idea at this point. This is a world economic depression. U.S. bonds are in demand. The great fear, of course, is now abroad in the world. The 10-year U.S. Treasury bond now pays a coupon below 2%. Switzerland there's even greater fear in Switzerland. The Swiss bonds now have negative interest rates. In other words, you've got to pay them for them to hold your money. The question now is, we're going to have this Jackson Hole meeting of the Federal Reserve next week. This is where solutions may be touted. Well, I have a solution. Here's the policy. Let's get right to the policy. It ought to be obvious to everybody. The zombie banks cannot finance a world recovery. The zombie banks are insolvent. They contain a mass of kited bankrupt derivatives. Any and all credit that is injected into these banks is absorbed as loan loss reserves against the day when this mass of kited derivatives explodes into the public consciousness. A lot of these are off balance sheet. They are being hidden, but they are there. It is the 1.5 quadrillion that we have talked about. So therefore, we need a new policy, and this has got to be imposed on the Federal Reserve. So let's start the agitation for this now. Now that Bernanke has been accused of treason, let's hit him while he's down and force him to do what we want. Back in a minute.